Everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Critical Lifelines and Pivoting Strategies for Small Businesses. Today's webinar is designed for direct question and answer and to create an environment that is truly interactive. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the President's Council website. We also encourage and welcome the opportunity to connect via phone, email, and web chat. Before we get started, please note your video should be automatically turned off and devices muted. If not, please do so at this time. As you have questions or comments, please insert it in the Q&A thread, and we will pause frequently to respond. If you have a question or comment for a presenter, please click the raise your hand button and we will pause to recognize you, at which time your device should be unmuted and video button turned on. Many of you heard the Stabilization Fund announcement this morning from County Executive Armond Budish. In his comments, the County Executive stated, quote, "Small businesses are the lifeline of our community and we must do all we can to help these businesses survive," end quote. The President's Council is excited to be an integral partner in this community collaboration and coordinated today's webinar to align with the announcement and quickly respond to the time sensitivity of the first round of funding applications, which ends April 23rd. Today's expert presenters are Theodore Ted Carter, Chief Economic Development and Business Officer for Cuyahoga County. Ted led the efforts to bring the Stabilization Fund community partners together, raise the nearly $5 million in funds, and stand up the Resource Call Center and oversees the management of the Stabilization Fund. Gina Cheverine, as the Managing VP of Inclusion and Strategic Partnerships at the Greater Cleveland Partnership, is dedicated to closing racial disparities in jobs, income, and wealth. Gina advances this vision by consulting with businesses to create more inclusive organizational cultures and convening community experts and leaders to stimulate growth by minority-owned businesses. Brian E. Hall serves as the Senior VP and Executive Director of Equity and Inclusion for the Greater Cleveland Partnership, where he was a founding board member. Brian is also a small business owner and investor. For over 30 years, his companies have served many Fortune 100 companies by providing contract staffing, plant logistics, warehouse services, parking, and stabilization solutions. Brian has served on several civic boards and task force in a variety of areas, including as founding member of the President's Council. I thank all of our expert presenters for joining us, and I turn it over to Ted.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Erica, for providing the county an opportunity to continue to partner with you to serve our minority and small business community. Really appreciate the time and the leadership that you and the President's Council have exerted. So I'm going to be brief, but really want to leave time for questions. So as Erica walked you through, the county executive this morning announced the creation of a Cuyahoga County Business Stabilization Fund. The fund is really meant to address the detrimental impact that COVID-19 has had economically on our most important businesses, our small neighborhood business community. So I'll walk through quickly what some of the eligibility requirements of the fund is. We have raised out of that nearly $5 million that Erica referenced, just over $550,000 to provide grants toward minority and small neighborhood-based businesses. And these are grants. And so while there are some eligibility criteria, they're not loans. We don't expect companies that receive the grant awards to be paid back, but it's really meant to help provide some relief in this immediate phase of distress that companies are experiencing. And initially, when we conceived it, it was hopefully going to be something to tide people over until the federal programs came online, and that's the EDL program, the SBA's Economic Development Disaster Loan Assistance Program, and the Paycheck Protection Program. Unfortunately, the Paycheck Protection Program exhausted its $350 billion that were committed to it, and we heard this morning that the SBA is no longer accepting EDL applications. That may change in the weeks ahead as Congress appropriates new money. So this hopefully will be a small means of support that the county can provide towards businesses. So let me just rewind for 2 minutes to just talk about the resources and infrastructure that we put in place. And while the county organized this effort, it wouldn't be possible without the 10 organizations that comprise our small business ecosystem, which include the President's Council, Greater Cleveland Partnership, Jumpstart, the National Development Council, Urban League, Magnet, HFLA, the Hispanic Business Center, and several others. All have been working over since this crisis began to set up the Small Business Resource Center. And so that is a center that is a virtual hub where you can call into the following hotline. That number is 216-452-9714, and both get assistance when the SBA programs come back online of applying for the SBA programs. And now that number will also guide you to our website, which is visit cuyahogacounty.us/help for business, where you can apply for this small business grant. The intent of this hub is not only to provide support for the SBA applications, but also to find out about ongoing financial resources and services that exist in the community, technical assistance services, from business planning, marketing, strategic planning, business consulting services, which are very important in this environment. How do you pivot your business? And I think Brian's going to talk about this. So you've been hit financially by this unexpected event. You may have been making money, you may not have. You may say, you know what, I'm good now. Or you may say, this is going to force me to recreate and reposition my services to provide new and different services to my customer base. And so there are resources that can help you think through that pivot. I personally look at this as a reset for humanity, quite frankly. Spiritually, community, and businesses are going to have to reset as well. And so while we know this is tough for all of you, the county, the cities of Cuyahoga County are here to support you, as well as these partners that I've mentioned, and we want you to succeed. We only succeed if you succeed, and we're committed to doing that. The site also can provide you guidance on unemployment assistance. So many of the unemployment programs have now been expanded to include sole proprietors and independent contractors, and so you can now get information on how you might qualify for unemployment. And so the governor and others have been very taking a broad approach to classifying unemployment, unlike how it's been defined in the past. And so there's no 1 week waiting period now, and you don't have to look for a job for a certain amount of time, and you're eligible for unemployment immediately. And then we also have training resources. So the county offers a training assistance program called Skill Up. If you have employees who you need to retrain and reposition, we will reimburse you for the cost of that training, as long as and we may have to revisit this. Before COVID-19, a requirement was for a certain minimum increase of salary to that employee who was being trained. But as I'm thinking about it now, thinking out loud, we may have to revisit that. So again, that website again for the Small Business Resource Center, which is also a gateway to the grant application, is cuyahogacounty.us/help for business. So the intent of this stabilization fund, again, is really to be short-term assistance, primarily focused on grants in the immediate term, but also loan assistance from a variety of partners. And the outcomes we'd like to see is to stabilize businesses and help as many businesses as possible survive this stay-at-home order that has been put in place for the last several weeks. And hopefully you caught the governor's announcement yesterday that it looks like he's leaning toward, at this moment, a modified or very stage reopening of the state starting May 1st, which is terrific news, but we know we have to stay safe, continue to follow public health guidelines around social distancing and wearing masks and taking other protective measures. Job retention, we obviously want to minimize the unemployment impact to the extent that we can. And then in the next phase of this, beginning positioning both our small business community and our broader economy for the long-term recovery. The core focus of this fund is to support minority and neighborhood-based businesses. So it's eligible for all small businesses that meet the following eligibility criteria, but that's our focus because we know that the minority, black and brown small business community is going to be hit the hardest. And we're seeing that, unfortunately, in the health dimension of this in terms of the, not so much here in Cuyahoga County, but nationally, the number of minority communities that are being adversely impacted, unduly adversely impacted by COVID-19. So to be eligible for the grants, which will range from $2,500 to $5,000, businesses and low to moderate income census tracts will be given preference. And so those are census tracts that would overlay with opportunity zones and also federal HUD programs where you see a high level of unemployment and poverty, but that's not the sole criteria. Businesses must have less than $1 million in revenue. The qualifying business must have been in operation for at least 1 year. The business owner must be a resident of Cuyahoga County, and 25% of the employees for the business must live in Cuyahoga County. The business must have experienced a 50% revenue loss due to COVID-19. We're asking that the business demonstrate a plan to reopen within 1 calendar year, and then the company can't have any obligation to Cuyahoga County with respect to real estate taxes of $5,000 or more, and have ideally applied for one of the SBA disaster relief programs. And other than that, on the website, there's a questionnaire that serves as the application. We opened that up at 9 a.m. this morning. We have over 450 applications so far, and the application window for this round will end Thursday night on the 23rd, and then our intent is to make award announcements of what grants have been awarded to companies early the following week. We know that this $500,000 pool cannot meet the demand that exists in the county, and so we are still raising money, and we will serve and provide grants to as many businesses as we can with that allotted pot. If we raise more money, we'll have a second round, but in addition to the grant money, there's over $3 million of new loan capital that's been provided that is also reflected on our website, and that is being provided by ECDI, the National Development Council, Urban League, and Jumpstart. And so you go to the website I mentioned, and we'll have or call the call center, and they will direct you to the appropriate institution that can support a loan for your particular circumstances. And so each provider has their own set of underwriting criteria around cash flow, interest rates, and things of that nature, but we've tried, everyone who has committed money to the fund has indicated that they will be as flexible as possible in the interest rates that they offer during this period. And so that is another avenue if you don't qualify for the grant. And I think I forgot one key eligibility, so let me go back to that. And for the grants, you have to be a small business from 1 to 20 employees. And so that is a limiting eligibility criteria. Businesses between 20 and 100 are eligible for different loan products. So I'll stop there and answer any questions on the back end.
If you have any questions at this time, please click the raise your hand button and you will be recognized. Ted, it doesn't seem anyone has any questions.
Good deal. I'll stay on the line.
All right, thank you, Ted. Gina, would you like to proceed?
Sure, thank you for having me. I wanted to talk a little bit about some resources that are in our community, similar to what Ted was talking about. Specifically want to share about the Business Growth Collaborative. And like the name suggests, this is a group of 11 different service providers in our community who work closely together to get business owners to the right resources that they need. Similar group of support organizations: Greater Cleveland Partnership, COSI, Jumpstart, Magnet, ECDI, Hispanic Business Center, Urban League, and down the line. And we've been together for about 3 to 4 years now, and we review different businesses, identify what their needs are, and then make sure that we connect them with a warm handoff to the right service provider. And how this works is, for example, if you're a client of the President's Council, they would identify the needs that you have, and then we'd work together to create a plan for the business owner on what those, where we can service the needs the best. So there's a slide that shows the different organizations that we can put up to show you who those are and what their services are. The service map that hopefully we'll be able to show is on most of those service providers' websites, so that you can access that as well. The county has been a great partner in this process with us and supports the Business Growth Collaborative, in addition to many of the foundations in our community. So here are the 11 organizations that work closely together and make sure that we're providing all of the services that we can. Some of the organizations are ones that can help you currently with the loans that Ted's talking about, specifically Jumpstart, ECDI, the county, certainly Urban League has as well. On the next slide, we have the service map. And again, this is available on many of our websites, and we can certainly push that out to attendees. We have descriptions of all the service providers, how they can be contacted, where their geography is, the specific services. And then on the next slide, we have the different areas that are their focus. And again, going through and identifying the size of your business, what that service is that you're looking for, whether that's certification or if you're looking for capital, whatever that is, going through and seeing who might best be able to service your needs. So
I'm sorry, excuse me. And Ted, we had one question. What are the qualifying, what's the qualification for receiving funds from the stabilization fund, and how do you become a BGC client?
Ted, do you want to take the first part? I'll take the second.
Ted, you might be on mute. We cannot hear you.
All right, well, I will answer the second part of the question, which is how do you become a Business Growth Collaborative client? If you identify any of those 11 organizations, if you call them up, you can become a client of the Business Growth Collaborative, because they're really there to identify what those needs are for you and connect you to any of the others. So any front door is the front door to the Business Growth Collaborative. So if Ted's not there, I'm gonna move on.
Hey, Gina, could I jump in just for a second? Because I was curious after Ted's presentation and there were no questions, and I think we have 30 businesses on the line. I was thinking about how could we get an indication of how many businesses think they might want to apply for this, and maybe they could raise their hand. So we could just get a count with 30 businesses on the line, how many might apply?
Can you see the hands going up?
I can't, but you can.
They're all going up.
Not surprising.
All right, good. Hopefully Ted heard that.
Rita, did you have a specific question that you wanted to ask? Okay, you continue, Gina.
All right, thank you. Brian, good question. I'm not surprised that everybody raised their hand. So another tool I just want to highlight for you is something called the Marketplace. And this is a tool that Greater Cleveland Partnership created to connect suppliers and business owners to buyers who may have opportunities and are looking to purchase your services or goods that you're offering in the region. So going to the Inclusion Marketplace website, you can click on the fact that you're a supplier. You can sign up, you can create a profile, and share with the community everything that you offer through your business. You can put your capability statements, you can upload your certification if you have, you can click the NAICS codes or describe the services in detail, and then you can go and search for opportunities that the buyers are posting on there as well. We have a lot of businesses already pre-loaded into the system. So if you head to the Marketplace website, you can search for your business and you can claim that profile. Or if you don't find your profile in there, you certainly can sign up and create one for yourself. The other piece of the Marketplace is we have been listing all of the events that are going on, and we're trying to keep those in one place. So I'm going to stop. I think Rita has a question before I go on. I couldn't read the whole thing.
Go ahead, Rita, if you want to ask the question. Rita's question is, or statement, is that she has entered all of her company's information, but has not had communication from the Business Growth Collaborative. Rita, if you could please open your mic, you'll need to clarify what you mean when you say you've entered the information with the Business Growth Collaborative. Are you speaking of the Marketplace or the collaborative?
I'll go ahead and address.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
What I was referring to that, obviously, well, I'm aware of some of these resources as being a business consultant in the community. And we had, had all this information about our own company completed in the site where you have, I'm a supplier, but there was no further communication. I didn't see any, information or email or where we felt, any, connections were being made, or I actually did not even see any other opportunities you are mentioning that, a lot of the, the buyers were putting some information. There was nothing on the site. So
Yeah.
Anything or?
Sure, great question, Rita. It's good to talk to you. It's been a while. So, so on the site, this was launched in late last year. And so we have had some of our buyers post opportunities, but we are still encouraging the businesses in our community to post those opportunities. And what can happen is two different things. If they identify that there are similar NAICS codes, that will push out to the suppliers that have that match. The other thing the buyer can do is go through and search the database. They would find you if it matches the services that they're looking for, and they could reach out to you directly. So those are two ways that this is able to connect to you. So as the Marketplace continues to have more buyers and more suppliers sign up, it will generate more activity in hopes that we can make those connections and get some business generated. Your second question about accessing the resources is a great segue into the second phase of the Marketplace that we're developing. It will take all of the resources that I showed you on that map, and we'll put it onto the marketplace, and it will be an interactive tool that will allow business owners to walk through a series of questions and point you to the right resource. And so that will be a way that you can get connected to those.
Ted, I know you're back on the line, and we had a question from one of the participants in clarifying again, what are the qualifications for receiving funds from the stabilization fund? You're on mute. Okay, it seems we've lost Ted again.
Well, it's a good stopping point for me. I got through the Business Growth Collaborative and the marketplace, which is what I wanted to cover for the attendees today.
All right. All right, let's transition over to Brian Hall.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks, Erica. Thanks, Ted, for all the information, and Erica for putting this on and inviting us to participate. I'm happy that there are 30 participants, and Rita, thank you for your question. One of the things that it made me wonder, we should send a confirmation email to the folks who have claimed their profile with some additional information. And we are also working on a video that will be at the beginning of the marketplace that will help you as well. But thanks for your question. So my topic today was around the vitality of our businesses, and in particular, when is it time to make the decision to pivot or to close a business? A very difficult decision. Before I do that, I want to just make some general comments about the two presentations that are before you and the President's Council itself. The three of us spend a lot of time every day speaking on your behalf. We often are talking about the small businesses, the minority businesses, or the Black-owned businesses in our community and what they need to organizations, whether it's corporate organizations, public sector organizations, service providers, et cetera. We are just always, Erica, Ted, Gina, and the other collaborators, working towards trying to make our ecosystem better so that you have a business that can thrive and survive. So your questions are important, your comments are important, and the more that we can know, the better that we can serve your needs. And that's part of all of our purpose to varying degrees depending on our organization. So I just want to make that general comment. So the decision about closing a business or pivoting is probably one that could be on many people's mind today. We think about all of the operations that have to be shut down, that don't have customers, not because they're not a good business, but because customers can't come and buy your service or product. And depending on where you were when this shutdown happened, you may have the ability to withstand months and months of lower levels of activity and come back as strong as ever. Or you might have already been wondering how much longer you could stay afloat just because of some natures of the business. So I'm going to bring up a few points. First and foremost, before I bring up those points, I'm going to say this about the times that we are facing. I was watching a video presentation yesterday where the head of a consulting firm was talking to his team, and he said, these are not unprecedented times. Businesses face challenges all the time. This one is maybe bigger and came on faster than any we've ever seen, but he used the video stores who had to face Netflix and streaming services as an example. He used the taxi cab companies that had to face Uber as an example. And he went through the challenges of 9/11 and what businesses in the airlines had to do as an example. And he said businesses often throughout history, because of circumstances, face challenges. And those that survive are obviously those who had some level of sustainability when the challenge happened, but more so those that see this unprecedented or precedented change as an opportunity versus a disaster, and that they spend that time thinking about how the world will shift and what will be different. So this man was a public speaker who makes his money by being in front of big crowds. And he was talking to his team saying, I can't speak in front of big crowds anymore. I'm gonna have to think differently about how I make money. And he was counting on the 12 or so people on the Zoom meeting that I was watching to be using this time to rethink how they approach the market and what they could do differently, and was commending their creativity and told them he knew he had the best people for the job, and that this job, they would come out the other side because of that. So as we enter into this, or have entered into this, and whether you're in the service business or a product business, you may be asking yourself, where am I? The first question I would say to ask yourself is why you started the business in the first place. Oftentimes we start businesses around a passion. I got a restaurant because I love to cook. I have a salon because I love to do hair. I help people order their houses because I'm very good at organization. And it's a passion that we've turned into a business. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's probably one of the best businesses to be in, is something that doesn't feel like work. But the next question you have to ask yourself is, are my revenues exceeding my expenses? So I'm doing something I love and it's worth getting up for every day, but is it causing me to make a profit? And if there is anything that we should all have in common in business, is that we're in business to have our revenue exceed our expenses. And most of us want them to exceed our expenses by a whole lot, so we can make lots and lots of money while we might be doing something that we love. So if you can answer, yes, I'm doing something that I love, and yes, my revenue is exceeding my expenses, you're on the path to sustainability. The next question would be, am I solving a problem for my clients? So let's say I'm doing something I love. I'm going to take the opposite view. My revenues do not exceed my expenses right now, but what I am doing, my clients say I do great and it solves a problem for them. And the reason that's important, the question that you're trying to answer is, will I have revenue tomorrow if I don't have it today? And if I don't have it today because restaurants are closed or because of social distancing or some other issues, but what I do solves a problem for a number of people that will pay me tomorrow, then it's the question of how do I sustain myself to be there? And that's why Ted's presentation was so important, because the county is trying to find, and we are all working at trying to find ways for businesses to sustain themselves. But if, for instance, you have a business that you're not sure whether this is really solving a problem, or people do business with you, but you know, how sticky are they to your business? Could they easily go to someone else? Then are you really offering a value proposition that you should continue to push down the path, assuming that your revenues are not exceeding your expenses? So that would be one of the questions that I would ask myself. And then lastly, what is the future going to look like? Both in terms of my first comments around, will the business that I'm in be a business in 3 or 6 months in the same way that it was before this catastrophe, or will it need to change? And is there some pivoting or changing that I could do to my business that A, solves a challenge for a customer, and B, would cause me to have revenue that would exceed my expenses? Now, I'm going to say this because I've had to close businesses, and it is emotional. Our businesses are like our children. They are like our spouses. They're something that we are attached to. And you did it because either it was a passion, that what you were doing was a passion, or just being in business for yourself was the passion. And you're facing the tough decision of, I can't sustain this anymore. When you answer question number 2, if your expenses are exceeding your revenues, you should be thinking about very hard about whether or not to continue. And the only reasons, in my view, that I would continue if my business expenses exceed my revenue is A, when I looked at the future, I saw the chances and the opportunity and the real opportunity that that would change because of what I'm providing. Or B, I have enough capital to sustain this business until I reach the point of profitability. C, you might say, I know this will work, but I need to find funds to support me. That's a little more risky because you're either going to borrow money or get investors. And now everyone is betting with you on the future. So I'm going to close with that, but close by saying, this is a tough decision. I've had to close businesses where oftentimes the decision for me was about the people who worked for me, who have been struggling with me, who have really been trying to make it work. And sometimes because of that, you hang on longer than you should have. I have friends and colleagues that have had to do the same. And the advice that we always are told is the sooner you make the decision, the better off you'll be, because you will rise again. You can rise in a new format, pivot to a different strategy. And the sooner that you can close that door and hopefully do so ethically and cleanly and in a way that both your clients and your employees can respect you, you can then start to think about, what do I do next? So with that, I'll close and take any questions or comments.
Ted, are you back on the line? We can't hear you. You are still muted.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
We had a question from one of the participants, wanted further clarification around the qualifications stabilization fund. So could you review
Sure.
those?
Can you put my last slide back up and I'll just walk through that slowly?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And while you're doing that, I just want to echo something that Brian said, is that the level I've been in both the public and private sector working with small businesses my whole career, and really believe in the importance of small business. Every large business that we herald and that we see on TV was once a small business. And so everyone on this call, depending on your ambition and your work ethic, and if that's your goal, has the ability to become something larger than what you are now. And this group, the President's Council, GCP, the county, is committed to your success. And I hope that you feel that way, both as a result of this call and the stabilization effort that we've put in place. And the Resource Center is really a way for us to offer and deliver services to you, and even BGC for that matter, efficiently. You know, your time is your most valuable commodity. We really don't want you running all over the county trying to figure out how to access an SBA loan, find a loan, identify procurement opportunities. So we wanted to create something that was efficient, centralized, and one-stop, if you will. And so we're hoping that this will endure beyond this crisis. But to get back to the question, so this, I can't see what's in front of you, but my matrix shows you and outlines the stabilization fund eligibility. So the initial qualification, which should really be at the top of which is buried, is that you have to be, for the grant, you have to be a small business with between 1 and 20 employees. So if you have 21 employees, you're not eligible for a grant from this program. And we had to have some criteria. There are 32,000 businesses in the county, 22,000 have 10 or fewer employees. Not sure the minority numbers within that, but you can imagine that that's over $100 million of investment that we'd have to identify in order to satisfy everybody's need. So that's low to moderate is a clever way for us to say black and brown and kind of navigate some broader issues. But that's really in census tracts that have a degree of poverty associated with them. The business must be less than $1 million in revenue. They must have been in operation for at least 1 year. A resident of Cuyahoga County, 25% of the business employees must live in Cuyahoga County, must have experienced a revenue loss of 50% due to COVID-19, and we assume that's going to be the majority of the businesses. Must have a plan to reopen within a calendar year. And so this gets to really the heart of Brian's presentation and some of the considerations, and those are all very personal. We understand that. But if you made a decision to say, you know what, I've had a good run, I want to go and spend more quality time pursuing other interests, I'm not committed to doing that, then we'd ask that you not apply and that we use that money for someone who is going to dig in for the next phase of this thing. Preferably have applied for but are not eligible for the SBA programs, and then we target it based on a lot of input from our business partners, what industry and sectors we should focus on. And so you see here, broad service industry consideration, restaurants, bars, personal care, hospitality. And so one of our early applicants has a ambulance service that's in Warrensville that has been delivering COVID patients, but has some working capital challenges in the short term, but in the intermediate term, we'll be able to meet those challenges because of billings that they have. And so that's one that has an early consideration. Neighborhood health care grocers. Not everyone in the county has access to food. And so we want to make sure that those neighborhood bodegas, spent time in New York, that's when we're using bodega, and grocers have capital where they can restock their shelves and provide needed food and nutrition to various communities. And general contracting and landscaping. So there's large real estate presence here, particularly in the suburbs, a lot of landscapers. And so the thought there was to make sure that they had an opportunity to get grant. These are preferred businesses, so if you fall outside of that, meet the other eligibility criteria, we're going to consider applicant, but this is kind of the focus.
Ted, I'm going to throw a few questions that others might be thinking about, but not asking. What if my credit is bad? What if I didn't file my taxes last year? What are the things that are going to disqualify me?
Great questions. Since this isn't a loan program, it's a grant, we wanted to make this as flexible as possible. And so it is, I hate to use this word, and don't quote me, it is free money for the most part. We are going to ask some very modest, minor requirements, those being that you have to fill out a survey at the end of this process so that we can really understand how our grant benefited your business, and we can aggregate that information so we understand how it benefited the county more broadly. So there's no tax. We're not going to ask for any of your taxes. The only related is if you have a property tax liability of over $5,000, that would disqualify you. There's no credit score required because it's a grant. I should mention that the City of Cleveland has a complimentary program. So if you are in the City of Cleveland, they have a loan program. They provided $1 million of capital for loans up to $10,000, and they do have a credit score requirement.
Are 1099 subcontractors considered employees?
If you are a LLC and you have 1099, yes, is the short answer.
And what's the turnaround time on the applications? You said you currently have over 400 and the applications close on the 23rd. What's the response?
The 23rd, we'll accept the last application. We will evaluate the applications over the next 4 to 5 days and have committed to making award announcements the week of the 27th, and then working through our partner, ECDI, who is the hub for this effort, and will be administering the grants. We hope to get money into people's pockets later that week and early the following week.
I have a couple of people who are posting lengthy questions in the Q&A, so I'm going to ask you if you will unmute your device and ask the question. Shanae Gibbons, could you please ask your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. I have a question about rental property. I'm a sole proprietor and I have currently 7 rental units. I've been listening, and the business types that you've been describing are different from rental property. Right now I'm dealing with 4 of the 7 units unable to pay, and this is causing a hardship because I'm still responsible for the expenses of those units, and some of that some of the rental payments they provide income for my family. So what resources exist for that situation?
Great question. I would say, as with respect to our program, we haven't landed on a definitive answer for you. I would say go ahead and apply.
Okay.
It only will take you less than probably 3 minutes to fill it out. And so it's very simple, 19 questions. A lot of them are yes or no, or just click a button. And,
Okay.
and then, yeah, so I would say apply, but we haven't made a definitive answer around real estate. What I would say to you, and this is for everybody on the phone that we haven't covered yet, is wherever you have debt obligations to a bank or bank-like entity, a lot of entities are allowing for deferrals of 90 days. They may not advertise it, but even if they're an SBA lender, part of the federal legislation required that they offer deferrals. So we'd ask you to do that. And with you're a landlord, so I don't know whether you would defer the people who are renting to you, but we'd ask you to at least consider it because they're being impacted as well. But please engage your banks for your personal mortgages and for your commercial mortgages.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Kyla.
Yes, hi. My name is Keela John, and I'm the owner of Good Hair, Good Body. I learned of this meeting through Ms. Robbie, so thank you, Ms. Robbie. My business is minority owned. It's woman owned, African American owned, and Latina owned. I'm the owner, so I actually hit all those marks. And my business is only 3 years old. I'm a manufacturer. So when I'm looking at the preferred business types, I didn't see that there, and I'm the only employee. So I just wanted to know, would I be eligible? I don't have any real estate debt or anything like that. I only have business credit cards and then what's in my business checking account. That's it. I'll try to mute here so that I can just listen to your answer. Thank you.
Yes, you're eligible. Would encourage you to apply also. Again, I'm not sure what kind of manufacturing company you are. We tried to tailor not only based on how our economy is structured here, but some national research as to what neighborhood-based businesses would most benefit from a grant. And so we couldn't hit everything. So I would encourage you to apply, and you'll see if that matrix is still up, that on the loan criteria, manufacturing is one of our target industries. And I'm going to give you my email. I'm going to give everyone my email, but would ask that you send me the manufacturing, the woman who just spoke, because there's a lot of manufacturing related resources that you might benefit from, because manufacturing is a target industry for us. And we haven't come across a lot of minority manufacturers. And so the loan instruments you would definitely be eligible for.
Okay,
and you just go to that website, and it will direct you to call our hub, and they'll direct you to the right loan product.
Okay, thank you. And yes, I manufacture products that specifically are useful for those who work in hospital, down to
Oh,
our hand sanitizers that don't break down the skin, but they give double level of protection. And I only know how to do it because my background is in chemistry, so I
oh,
know how
wow.
to manufacture.
Yeah, I definitely need to connect with you because, you might be able to be a vendor for the county. So obviously, we're buying a ton of PPE and hand sanitizer for our employees, for our first responders, and there's a real shortage there. So I will connect you to our emergency operations center that are handling those procurement requests. And
Okay.
Regina and Brian, it strikes me that we should just elevate that on your procurement, kind of the health-related procurements, and add the PPE demand if there's companies out there. So my email is tcarter,
I'm right.
CARTER,
Okay.
T as in Tom,
Okay.
at cuyahogacounty.us.
At cuyahogacounty.us. So your first initial T,
T, yes.
Carter at cuyahogacounty.us. Thank you. Thank you
You
all.
bet.
I'm gonna mute now.
Okay, so give me your first name again just so I can have a reference point when you email me.
Yes, my first name is Kila, Kila, and my last name is John, John, and my business is called Good Hair, Good Body. And so
Okay.
my website is goodhairgoodbody.com.
Okay, just reference the President's Council in your subject line. So
Okay.
when you send me a note, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Okay, we had another question. If someone has applied for one of the SBA products, are they still eligible for the stabilization fund?
Yes, you're definitely eligible. Yes.
Hey, Erica, I have another question for the participants. And they could raise their hand. How many of the participants are already signed up in the marketplace?
Two hands went up, so that means that we have some work to do.
Is Keela Johns one of them?
No.
Okay.
I'm not one of them. I actually contacted President's Council last September, I believe, August, September, to learn of CPA services and eligibility for programs, but I think I was notified of the President's Council afterward, so they advised me to wait to the next cycle. So this is actually very fortuitous for us.
Would love to work with you, Kyla. Gina, can you further tell us how there are a lot of businesses on the phone that are looking for financial support, but how specifically can the collaborative assist those businesses in sustainability during this time?
Well, the first thing I would recommend is that you get on the marketplace. And I think that was where Brian was going with that question. We have opportunities to push out your businesses and promote your business, but you need to sign up. And the marketplace will be more attractive to buyers if there are more suppliers on there. So we will send out that link. Erica, if we can do that afterward and make sure that you all sign up, that would be my number one recommendation. And then if any of you are already working with one of the collaborators, please let them know that you'd like to access services of any of the collaborators on there. That's a great way to get connected. The other way I would also recommend that we can do is send out a connection to GCP and try to get you connected through Business Growth Collaborative that way.
Were there any other questions? How many of you are members of the President's Council Business Chamber?
I only see 3 hands, so we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, let me just put a plug in for the President's Council. Again, so this is your African American and Minority Chamber of Commerce here in Cleveland. I say that because I'm not a Clevelander, and they do a terrific job in business development. Everyone has a different skill set, but what I've found about the President's Council, they're serious about helping the minority business community, demonstrated in part by their financial contribution to supporting our Small Business Resource Center, but also the networking and efficient ways of doing peer-to-peer business, as well as now through the marketplace, the B2B channels that they can open up for you. And really, they're your advocates. And if you're paying the money to be, you will get a positive return on investment, I guarantee you. And the county is going to support the President's Council because we believe in what they're doing and the value that they bring to this community. And so it's a very leveraged way of advancing your business.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you so much. We have a question from Chris House. Chris, if you want to unmute.
Hello, everyone. This has been super informative. I've been on several Zoom conferences really over the past 2 weeks. And I, listening to Brian and listening to everybody else, I do see this as an opportunity. Even when this all started, I actually started my business in 2009, which was really dead smack in the middle of a recession. And I believe that technology is almost kind of recession proof. It's almost like a car. It's people need technology, whether they're trying to get their technology repaired or purchasing new. But one of the things I wanted to find out from Ted is for those who are certified with the county and the state, et cetera, and really trying to compete against, with Microsoft and CDW and some of these other places, are there opportunities now, especially if you're working, selling products, selling services, maybe even part of the workforce initiative, are there opportunities working with minority business, working with the county and other government agencies on getting established and doing some work in that space?
Yes, I would say short answer is yes. I need to dig into it a little more so that I don't spin your wheels. But yes, you mean around, well, what's your business, sir?
So House Solutions is IT support services. So we do managed services. We sell supplies. We train, as far as really trying to get, people into technology. One of our missions is technology for the rest of us. And so I grew up a big sci-fi geek, with 1984 and Brave New World, and really understanding that, what side of the fence do you want to be on? So I've expected this, for quite some time, but I really like to share technology with the masses. So that's kind of what I do, and I've done this.
Critical and
for quite a few companies.
Yeah, I would say again, did you take down my email address?
I did.
Okay, because I'd love to sit with you. One of the things I've really been focused on is how we close the digital divide here in this community. And so the bad news is the folks are going to fall farther behind because they don't have connectivity when everyone is turning toward broadband infrastructure and just hardware infrastructure. So I don't know if you saw our initiative that the exec announced last week about providing 300 free hotspots around Cleveland to connect CMSD students so that they can do online learning, and we're in the process of identifying Chromebooks for students to use who don't have any. So, but we got to do that at scale, and it's not just Cleveland. 25% of the county is disconnected from broadband infrastructure. So we'd love to talk with you more about how you could help us think through that. And in the training realm, get you connected over to our Workforce Development Board that is now looking at distance training, virtual job fairs, virtual job hubs, and things like that. It sounds like that may be in your vein.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Hey, Ted.
And your name again, sir?
I'll add a comment for Chris. That's Chris House. I recommended Chris as a supplier to GCP last year when we were looking for, I think it was printers. And Chris, I think you end up becoming a supplier of 6 or so of our desktop printers. And then secondly, Chris, for your benefit, there is a process underway and called Workforce Connects. They started with the manufacturing sector. They're working on healthcare, and next is IT, and they're going to form an industry group around the IT workforce, and they will be looking for both large and small businesses to participate. So I'll make sure that your name is on the list as that moves forward.
Appreciate that, Brian.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And so I'm we get connected, Chris. So that's one of the things that is funded out of my office is the Workforce Connect effort. And so Brian's spot on. And also encourage you to the marketplace. I believe, Gina, is the county part of the marketplace? I know we talked about that. So do our procurements get visibility on your dashboard?
Not yet, but we're looking forward to having you on there.
Okay, and so Chris, I will also just connect you independent of that because we do have a minority purchase focus, and through Brian's efforts, did a disparity study a couple of years ago to identify, it was mainly construction oriented, but I'm sure it touched IT. I'll get you connected so you can come in and meet some of the IT professionals.
Okay, that would be.
And because of our background in public sector procurement, also give you some thoughts of how you can submit some unsolicited proposals and start to generate business for yourself through thought leadership.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question from Tamika Taylor. Tamika, we can't hear you. Can you unmute your microphone?
Sorry about that. I was multitasking, which is actually what brings me to my question for Ted. Hi, Ted. How are you?
Good afternoon.
I was just doing the application while we were talking, which was my multitasking. So it wasn't that I was reading other emails. I was focused on what you said that inspired me to get my application in.
Okay.
My question.
I love it.
My question is, though, on, for example, like question 3, where it asks you if you're certified with the state. So I push yes in, but then it asks me, same question a little further down, what year or date and year that you were formed. Well, it won't allow me to do that because I push yes. I don't want my application to get thrown out and eliminated because it won't allow me to respond to 2 things within the same question.
Okay,
and
so
when you have so many
so
applications coming in, at some point, I know there will become a point that people will be looking at, like, how do we eliminate folks? Because we got so many to do.
okay, then what I'm not looking. I'm looking at my hard copy here because I'm in a conference, not in front of a computer. So I'm looking at question 3. Is your business registered with the state of Ohio? Yes or no? And you push yes.
I push yes, and then right below the no, it asks for a year and date, of establishment, but I can't complete that because I said yes.
Okay, so I haven't actually taken this myself, so I don't know if functionally this will let us do this. So hit no, and then just put in your year of formation and see if that advances you. Whether you're registered or not, there's not going to be a disqualifier. But I think what we were trying to do is capture maximum information about how the small and minority business community is structured here. And so try it that way and see if that lets you click through. And then if so, you'll be good to go. If not, then I would just ask you to start over and do it that way.
Okay, because it is allowing me to continue to go through the rest of the questions. It just wasn't allowing me to be able to do that way. Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't. It only, if you do yes or no, it doesn't allow you to respond to that question. So I'm leaning
That's good
towards just
feedback.
answering
Okay.
the question.
Yeah, why don't you do that? And I'll make sure we fix that going. That's good feedback.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Veronica Thornton, hopefully you saw the responses we provided, but in case you did not, the IT person who was speaking is Chris House with House Solutions, and we did provide an
email contact for him in the chat. If you need to contact the President's Council, we'll be happy to provide you with his direct as well. If there are others on the line that would like to connect with those business so that you can do business with each other, we would certainly be happy to make those connections.
Erica, it's Tamika again. Just for Ted, I just want you to know that happens with a couple of the questions. So same thing happened in question number 5 as well. So it's
Okay.
almost like you can only, out of the 3, you can only respond to 1.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback.
Okay, thank
I
you.
appreciate that very much.
Are there other questions or comments from the participants?
Hush.
Well, we certainly thank all of you for joining us today. Again, this webinar is being recorded. We know it's vitally important to support the businesses that we serve, that our Black businesses will be the hardest hit. We do have a question.
Oh, thank you, Audley. We want to make certain that each of you also participates in the census. During this time is the importance of our participation. The census drives over $675 billion each year. We need to ensure that our community is counted in the distribution of those funds. Find a link to the census so that you can complete the census. We also want to magnify the importance of voting. If you have not voted by mail, please make certain that you do so. We will also provide a link to request your vote by mail ballot. Again, thank you all for joining us. If there are no other questions, thank you, Ted. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today. Please do, again, contact the President's Council and have a safe and healthy day. Thank you.
Erica, thank you for putting this on. I think you do a big round of applause. I don't know how we do that on Zoom. But it's just, it was wonderful to hear how many people will apply. Great, we're going to get people in the marketplace. We need you to join the President's Council Business Chamber and do business with each other. We accomplished 4 things on this call that were fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.